What's up, guys? It's Eventon here. I apologize if you guys can hear the road and some other things. I was going on a hike today, and I wanted to kind of come up with an interesting or just a different way to make this video. I really wanted to talk about the CSM, the people that I'm going to be putting on my ballot, why I'm voting for them, and kind of a little bit how the single voter transferable system thing works, because it's a little bit different if you live here in the US. It's very different, and I went out on a hike. I just wanted to kind of show off a little bit of the beautiful state of Arizona, but yeah, there's a huge fire going on, so I guess it's the wrong kind of day to show it off. But regardless, I wanted to do something just a bit different, and just talking about who I'm voting for, why, how the single voter transferable system kind of works, at least to my knowledge. I might be wrong about some small nuances, but typically the gist of it is just whoever you want voted in the most, you put at the top, and then whoever you want the least, or whatever representation, you kind of put down towards the bottom. But regardless, I learned a lot, and a huge shout out to Ashterothi. He did an amazing job. I'm actually gonna put my sunglasses down because this is getting pretty bright out here. Huge shout out to Ashterothi, who did an amazing job doing 35, 40 interviews or something like that. I actually took the time to watch every single one. From beginning to end. I'll be honest, I put them on 1.5 or ×2 speed, because each interview is about an hour long, and putting in 40 hours of watching, I managed to get that down to 30. It's all about efficiency, right? And just absorbing information as much as you can. And it's interesting hearing their perspective, as well as the perspective of the candidates, but also just people that just their take and their opinion on the CSM in general. Some people think it's a huge waste of time. People think it's just a huge no block thing. Some people think it's just something for CCP to put forward to make it look like the players are influencing stuff, kind of a sandbox thing, they're kind of making a difference, but they really don't. But after hearing some of the candidates, some of them that are currently in the CSM and the ones that wish to be in the CSM, I don't know, at least I still have faith in it. Maybe I haven't played EVE Online long enough for the salt and sodium to really soak in for me to not really believe in the CSM or whatever, but I really like what I heard, and just the sheer amount of information I was able to absorb about all the conflicts and issues and concerns that people have, and even some of the praise that some of the candidates have given CCP up to this point has been truly amazing. And I've always been trying to find ways to understand the game and all of its various aspects. And it's just really hard when you're one player focusing on one gameplay style. It's really hard to get understand nullsec, low, industry, all these different various aspects of EVE Online in such a short amount of time. I mean, I've only been playing for 14, 15 months at the most right now, but I'm genuinely interested in the CSM and how it operates. And I made my list, and I think to some people it's going to be a surprise, the people I select, but at the same time, this isn't a prediction, and just kind of full disclosure, this isn't a prediction of how I think it's going to happen. There's a lot of no block candidates I didn't vote for, just because I know they're probably going to get on anyway with just the sheer amount of support they have behind them. This doesn't represent anybody I'm affiliated with, so it doesn't represent any corporation I'm with, or anybody that I've talked to, or anything like that. This is just my personal opinion. I put a high value on new player experience. I love talking about EVE Online lore. I want to learn more about that stuff. I want to learn about conflict drivers. I want to show more representation to old systems that aren't getting enough love in the game. There's so many components that people have brought up in these interviews, which are amazing. So I'm going to put all the interviews and not all the interviews, but I'm going to put all of Ashteroth's information down below, because I highly suggest you guys at least check out some interviews, and I think it's on us as players to influence the game. And we complain about how it's not a sandbox anymore and all this stuff, and it's this is probably, if you believe all that, this is one of the few ways you can actually influence the election with your vote. And if there's certain candidates that you believe that are going to do a good job and represent either your gameplay style or represent some of the things that you want to see more of in EVE Online, this is the way to do it. And it still surprises me the amount of players that are salty about the CSM and complain about it and want things to change, but don't take the time. Some of them haven't even taken 20 minutes to look at any of the candidates that are even on the ballot, or just don't vote at all. So I think some of that part is kind of silly, but that's just me. I'm just obsessed with learning, connecting with people, trying to understand the game and some of the concerns that they may have. But regardless, I'll go ahead and jump in the list here in a little bit. Ooh, I needed a drink. It's about 105 degrees Fahrenheit out here, or 40 degrees Celsius roughly for all you tea drinkers on the other side of the pond. So it's pretty hot here in Arizona, and really, really, really dry. So that's one nice thing. I guess it's not humid at least. And typically when I go on my hikes, I have to wear my bucket hat, or else I look like some And I burn really easy too, or else I look like some like pale Jovian drifter, and I'll probably get like the FBI called on me because they'll think I'm like an alien or something. But regardless, before I jump into like the candidates, as far as I know, the single transferable like voter system thing, the way it works is when you fill out your ballots, I highly suggest, it's actually, you guys should fill out all 10 slots. You'll get 1 through 10 slots to do it, and people at the top, number 1 are the ones you want most likely to enter in. So according to my knowledge, the way it works is they tally up all the votes. Once all the votes are applied in, all the votes are going to be added up together, and they come up with some sort of system or algorithm to say, all right, here's the quota that is needed in order to be elected into the CSM. So let's say it's 3,000 votes. And once they figure out that algorithm, that let's say 3 of the 10, potential CSM members hit that 3,000, they're automatically in. All right, what are we going to do with the other, 40-something candidates, but we only have 7 more slots. So at that point, any excess votes that happen to the people that get that 3,000 votes, just because those votes don't go to waste, they go to the other candidates that that are going to be out on your second list. So basically, they take the number 1 of everybody, and if that gets them excess of 3,000 votes, they take kind of like the secondary of all of those other excess votes. They give them to the other people. I'm really bad at explaining this as I'm describing it. But after they do that, after they take the excess votes, at that point, let's say 2 more candidates hit 3,000. Great. Now we have 5 out of 10. Now at this point, now that there's no more excess votes to get people to 3,000, now they take the people that got the least amount of votes, eliminate them off the list at any of those secondary votes, and then we keep doing this. So they take the second and the third. So basically, they keep working down this list that basically your vote is never wasted. And at least, the people that you're going to vote in your 1, 2, and 3 slot have a very, very high likelihood of at least getting on the CSM. But if they don't for whatever reason, let's say they're towards the bottom, there's a good chance that your 4, 5, 6, and 7 are going to make it, and then it just keeps going down and down and down from there. So your vote is never wasted. You're basically just putting things in order of where you would like to see the candidates be voted in. So I'm sorry if that was a long tangent. There's probably an infinitely easier way to explain that, but long story short, you just want to vote for the people that you want to most likely enter or get to the CSM towards the top, and then I wouldn't say least likely, but towards the bottom. And even then, I think there's 40 or 50 people candidates. So, I mean, getting the top 10 is still a pretty big deal. So I actually wrote down the names, and I'm trying to remember as much as I can from these guys, because there's so many good points and information that they all brought to the table. I honestly, a lot of these guys could be intermingled. I'd say anyone below like the number 4 slot, I could interchange them between the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and like 10 slot. And I even have a few alternates and a few other things as well. But the first one I wanted to talk about, my number 1 pick, and if I'm not lazy with my editing, I'll probably put it somewhere around here. My number 1 pick is definitely going to be Maldavius, and that is mostly because I was genuinely impressed with the amount of preparation he did. He has this really, really awesome... Oh, my paper's going to fly away. He had this really, really awesome video about 9 or 10 different things he would love to see changed about EVE Online. He is a game developer himself. He's been in Blizzard Entertainment, Amazon Studios. I think he has his own private studio that he's working on, gaming studio called like Pirate something. I'll put his information down in the description below if I can remember. Or at least all that stuff's going to be on Ashteroth's thing. I'm going to link all of Ashteroth's information down below so you guys can find it yourself. But I'm doing Maldavius because he's a game developer. He understands what is a realistic timeline, what are some things that they can do currently to expand the game and make it more refreshing and interesting to people. He's a huge proponent of the Triglavian invasion and the systems. He wants the whole Edencom and Triglavian conflict to be ongoing. He wants to change up the Trig filaments. He wants conflicts inside of even the Trig, the Pochfen like empire. So, there's 3 different kind of empires within the Triglavian space, and so he wants some inner conflict happening there, but then also an ongoing conflict that will bring them all together towards the Edencom. And so I highly, he has like a 9-minute video of all the changes that he wants to make to the game, and that all seem very realistic and can probably hit certain timetables that are in line with CCP. I was genuinely impressed with his experience and the things that he brought to the table and how well-spoken he is and knowledgeable and how he's genuinely open about learning stuff. And I think also a big proponent too is that he's really into like the EVE lore, and he wants to expand upon that and intermingle it with any kind of like new game mechanics they're thinking about. So kind of a long tangent there. My second vote, or I should say my second slot, is going to go to Kenneth Feld. Honestly, we have to put this guy in here, mainly because we're still like in the midst of all the huge industry changes. As far as I know, I really like his attitude. He's definitely someone like I would want to work with if I was on the CSM. Extremely knowledgeable about industry, and I can only imagine the hundreds of hours he has put in helping in CCP, trying to balance everything, bring up certain concerns about capitals, subcapitals, all kinds of stuff. And I really want to see him follow through in the end. I would really hate to see him start a project, do all this legwork into the industry changes that doesn't just like affect low sec or high sec or no sec. Like, industry changes literally affect everyone in the game. So I think, in my opinion, that kind of puts him above a lot of the other candidates when it comes to that, especially since, once the dust settles for all the industry changes, I would imagine CCP is probably not going to touch it for another 5 to 10 years. Who knows? So like, this is going to be a big cornerstone for the industry changes, and I really want to see Kenneth see it all the way through. I've heard nothing but good things about him from people on CCP side as well as other CSM members, so I really think we need to get him elected in. That's why I'm at my number 2 spot, is just to follow the industry changes, which has been the hugest deal over the last 8 or 9 months of the game, to see it all the way through. The number 3, I'm going to try my best to just do this all in one shot so we're not taking too long. Number 3 is I think it might surprise some people, and a lot of you guys probably haven't even heard of him, which is Jurius Doctor. Jurius Doctor is a guy who's made a lot of YouTube videos helping out new bros. He actually helped me. When I started 16 months ago, I watched a ton of his videos, and he was infinitely helpful with getting me caught up with the mechanics of the game, what to do, what are some pitfalls about getting caught up, right mindset when playing EVE Online. He was partially responsible for getting a lot of the UI helper tools. Whenever you probably see it in the rookie chat or the new bro chat all the time, where someone will link something in blue and you click it and it'll actually point an icon or an indicator, something like that. He was actually partially responsible, if not fully responsible, for that happening in the game. And so he's really nuanced when it comes to new bro. He's really good at user interface. I think he does some sort of help. I don't know his exact role, but he definitely helps people out over the phone and through the computer, and so he loves being able to use the UI interface, and I think he could definitely help out CCP in that, because he's been a huge proponent of the new bro experience and just making things easier for new players to understand the game that much simpler. And I'm a huge proponent of the new player experience, bar none. So Jurius Doctor is definitely up there on my list. The guy's put in the work. He's been trying out for the CSM for a while now, and I really like to see him on the CSM management group. Number 4 is, this person actually really surprised me. I never heard of him before, and I probably wouldn't have if I wasn't in a Wormhole Corp. And I've only been in the Wormhole Corp that I'm in currently for a tiny bit over a month, so I don't even fully understand all the mechanics and nuances and who's what and this. But of all of the Wormhole candidates I saw, and I know there's a lot of issues surrounding the Wormhole candidates, and there's a betrayal a couple years back and this and that, but we really need to rally around at least a handful of candidates and get someone in from the Wormhole Corporation. And for me, that was Mark Resurrectus. I really like his attitude. I found I had a lot in common with him when it came to growing up and playing games and with your friends and all that stuff. He genuinely represents a lot of the mid-tier and the lower tier Wormhole corporations, C4, C3, and below and things like that. He's not huge into the whole C5 crabbing thing. I think he's kind of made a lot of great connections. I think he has an amazing attitude. He's really upbeat. I really enjoyed just his humor, and I think that's another thing that some people overlook with the CSM, is that you got to vote people in that are genuinely funny, and not funny, but just in the sense of someone you'd want to work with, because these are people that are going to be working with CCP directly, and if these people don't seem approachable or understanding or have a good attitude in general, I would imagine it's really, really hard for CCP to even consider the idea. It could be the best idea in the world, but if there's a bad attitude or a terrible presentation behind it, it's going to be really, really hard to hear them out. And so I really liked Mark Resurrectus, just the fact that he represents a lot of the mid-tier and low-tier Wormhole corporations. He understands the issues and concerns that a lot of the Wormhole community has. And there's some other really, really great points he brought up. I just don't remember them off the top of my head. I have 40 hours worth of footage in my brain, so I'm trying to wrap my head around it. But he is definitely up there as my first Wormhole candidate I would vote for. Number 5 is Suitonia. Suitonia is, honestly, I haven't watched him that much, but he's a celebrity in the EVE Online community. Definitely voted as probably one of the best PvPers, if not the best PvPer ever in EVE Online. I've always loved watching some of his videos. I've caught him on stream a few times. Just the sheer knowledge and understanding he has about ship fitting, PvP, game balancing, or I should say like combat balancing and all that stuff. I think he'd be an excellent consideration when it comes into all those things, because I think there's a lot of people that understand everything from the game, like combat-wise, from, you know, a million feet up, but he's actually on the ground flying frigates. The Kestrel is kind of the ship that he's known for flying all the time. I mean, it's a T1 frigate, but he still manages to get kills that he's not able to do, that most other players aren't able to do. But just his sheer knowledge, and I think his popularity is going to put him in an awesome position. I've seen him in talking in stations too a lot of the time, so he's obviously in the face of the community. I've kind of voted for people that do purposely put their face out in the community, just not only just because like they obviously care about the game in that sense, but also, you know, they're putting themselves in a vulnerable position to hear out the concerns and the feedback of the community on a consistent basis. So I highly respect the people that do stream or do put out content and stuff like that. So I think Suitonia would be an awesome fit, and quite a popular person to be put on the CSM. So that is my top 5. Number 6 is Mike Azariah. Mike Azariah is like the heart and soul of EVE Online. Jurius Doctor said this in his last video like a year ago about his CSM thing, and I would probably agree with him that like they need to lift the like limitation requirements, like how many times you can run or like get accepted into CSM for Mike Azariah. Like this guy is amazing. He has dealt with a lot of personal issues going in and out of the CSM prior, and he's like fully recovered. He's an awesome guy. He's a guy that has dedicated a good portion of his life to the game. He's started a whole Magic School Bus program where he basically hands out ships to new bros, from frigates all the way up to cruisers, teaching them how to PvP, teaching them how to fly their ship. He's responsible for basically for the big bowhead and being introduced in the game. He wanted to fly fitted ships all around New Eden and hand out ships, and he's done more things than I can remember for the game. I think his big thing that he kind of helped people see it, like CCP save themselves from, which is I think at one point CCP was going to get rid of completely the whole drone bunny idea just because it was overpowered in this one mechanic, and Mike was like, we shouldn't do that. I don't think we should get rid of this whole mechanic. I think there's a way to balance it instead. So Mike Azariah is just an amazing guy. He's been in the game for a long time. He's done more than he's ever been asked for to help out new bros, and I definitely want him back on the CSM, and just the experience too. I think there is there's a few other CSM candidates I'm going to list here that are already in the CSM, and I think there's also an inherent benefit to someone that's in the CSM right now being voted in again, that they're not having to play catch up, because pretty much all the new members that are going to get voted in, it might take them months to even just get caught up to like where the vision and the idea of CCP or where they want to go. But if we re-elect some of these candidates that are already in, that are doing a great job, they're already, when they get back in, they're already just hitting the ground running. They already know the direction that CCP is going in, and they don't need to spend weeks or months catching up on like what they need to do and kind of like where the general vision is of CCP. So I definitely want Mike Azariah to get voted in. And number 7, I put in, let me see if I can double check this here. Number 7, I put Arisa Elkin. So I've watched her a lot on stream as well as on talking in stations. I haven't really talked that much in her stream. I just enjoy like watching some of her like PvP fights and things like that. I haven't been that active in like the Twitch streaming community because I do everything on YouTube, obviously. But she's definitely into like the low sec faction warfare. She wants to bring back a lot of like the old school feel of like low sec, and some of these other a lot of the other people on the CSM group too believe they really want something to happen with low sec, especially when it comes to the faction warfare stuff. But she's definitely going to be pushing that a lot. She's a huge lore buff, so I think her working alongside some other people, she does a lot of role playing, so she's part of the role playing community, and I would love it for someone that can actually kind of connect the dots and actually give some good in-game lore reasons why certain events are happening. Because to be honest, like I know a lot of people say like, oh, EVE is a sandbox and it's a story about the players, but honestly, I think, and it's probably just because I haven't been playing that long, I haven't understood the history, but I think some of the stories of the players are kind of boring. You know, that's how we get like all the blue donut stuff. That's how we get a lot of people just diplomacy. There's not a lot of conflicts happening, and if they do, they get dragged out for a long period of time, and it's like I'm infinitely more interested in the lore of the game, and I really hope that this new CSM, or it seems like CCP is really trying to flex their muscles when it comes to showing off the EVE Online lore and some of the cool things that could be happening on the next horizon. So I think Arisa would do an amazing job at helping with the faction warfare stuff, some of the role playing, and just trying to make sure that, like, hey, if we implement an event or like a cool idea, what are some cool in-game lore reasons why we can make that happen and get people more invested into the EVE Online lore and why certain things are happening. And I think it's super easy for people to overlook that, especially people that just do PvP a lot, where all they do is see each other as just ships and stat, like, you know, they look at every ship as just a stat stick with, you know, they have a web of fire bonus, they have an optimal range bonus, blah, blah, but there's no, like, oh, this ship was actually designed because of this, or these ships, this whole line of ships was created because of this kind of conflict, or whatever it was. Like, all that stuff is kind of missing, and I would love to see more of the EVE Online lore kind of get applied and imposed onto players in EVE Online. I want to see more NPC conflicts. I want to see more people being able to choose sides when these fights break out, because at the end of the day, I see it like Dungeons and Dragons in the sense of, like, there's a, you know, the Capsuleer, even the Capsuleers that you're playing as in this sandbox, even only they have so much power and influence in the world. So that's why, you know, when the Empire gates were being built, the Empires, you know, we're not stronger than the Empires by any means. So they're building the gates no matter what. I think CCP could have done some different stuff with the gates, but that's besides the fact. But there's still a world that is growing and changing and reacting to the actions that the Capsuleers or the players that are actually doing. So I know that was a long tangent. I'm going to go on to my next one, but I definitely want Arisa in that spot. Number 8 is... So number 7, yeah, number 8. Number 8 is my boy Brisc Rubal. I love this guy. I watched him a lot. He has an amazing attitude. He kind of brags about the fact that he's not part of like management or leadership or anything like that. He's just a line member. The only reason why I didn't put him higher on my list is just because I know he's going to get a huge backing from a lot of the null blocks, and he's probably on some of the like voting sheets for some people already, so I don't think he's gonna have too much of an issue getting in. That's really the only reason I didn't put him higher, but he's just a great guy. Actually, recently, I see if I can put it on here if I'm not too lazy with the editing, is I recently paid 2 billion ISK for his corpse here in Jeddah, just because I think it's cool to have the corpse of a CSM member, but also he does so much for the community, and he's definitely lends an olive branch out to people of all kinds of space, low sec, high sec, wormholes. He even mentioned a few times that, like, hey, if for some reason the wormhole candidates never get voted in, like, I want to be that ear that listens to you guys and actually bring some of your concerns to the table if there isn't proper representation. And he's just he's a politician and a lobbyist in real life, and he's done a great job in that sense, and he's definitely like in his element when he's on the CSM versus being in like actual leadership in the game. He's mentioned that a few times. So I mean, I haven't heard any issues or concerns with this guy, like, at all whatsoever. I mean, there was some sort of scandal that happened back in the day, but the fact that he was able to overcome it, and then not only that, but like try and jump into the CSM again after this scandal, just shows how dedicated he is to the game. And I really want him to get onto the CSM, because he's just an awesome guy, and he has like the most hilarious election videos, or I should say campaign videos and all that stuff, and he treats it seriously. So I definitely want Brisc Rubal on your guys' voting ballot. Number 9 is RonUSMC. I watched him recently. I know he streams. I haven't watched him that much personally. But first, he has a big thing about kind of like rebalancing ganking in the game. I would have to agree with that. I don't want to get rid of ganking, but there definitely should be some sort of balance around the fact that, like, being negative 10 sex status absolutely means nothing to a ganker and Yodama. Being able to tether as a negative 10 criminal seems a bit weird as well. And he's brought up some other good points that I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. Like I said, I have like 40 hours of footage in my brain, but he just has like a really, really good attitude about the game, and he understands. He also has some concerns and things that he wants to address about new bros as well. So even though he's kind of out in like the no block stuff, I think he's definitely a big proponent of helping out new bros, and he also brought up some really good points. Like I said, unfortunately I didn't take notes. I watched a lot of these videos when I was like working out, going on hikes, things like that, so I didn't really have time or like have the capability to like take notes on all these people. But plus he's a U.S. Marine vet, so that's probably a little bit of bias on my part, but I have a huge amount of respect for people that are ex-military and have dedicated themselves in their time, whether they're out in the field, behind a desk, behind a computer, doesn't matter. Like, these are people that have obviously dedicated a large chunk of their life to serving their country. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, RonUSMC, I think he's a great candidate. I wanted him to get in just because I definitely share a lot of similar views that he does. And last but not least, and Phanomite. I think that's how it is. Phanomite. He was in the CSM prior, and I like to call him, the way his attitude is, he's definitely like an enforcer, like in hockey. He's definitely very assertive in the things that he wants to do. And he has a lot of great visions and ideals when it comes to low-sec, a lot of things that he wants to change. When I watched his interview with Ashterothi, there's a lot of things I agree with. And it's one of those things that I think we need to have one guy in the CSM that isn't just going to be, and I'm not saying the rest of the candidates are like this, but that aren't just going to be a yes man or woman. Like, we need someone that is willing to kind of push back, maybe rub people a little bit the wrong way to get the message across, even though it's very, very important. His big thing that I think he pushed and he takes credit for, which is basically the whole concept of being able to implement, and they did it recently, a couple months ago, but implementing multiple clones inside of a station or a citadel. He's partially responsible for that, so that's a huge change. I mean, I loved it, being able to swap out your training clones, having multiple clones and a thing, and that's a huge deal, especially for something like wormholes. So that's definitely helped out people a ton, I think more than they know. So he had a lot of other ideas when it came to low sec, balancing other parts of space and things like that, but I definitely want someone that is a bit more assertive, and like I said, is kind of like an enforcer in hockey in order to get a lot of this stuff done. I did have a couple alternates. The first one I had is actually Jim Halescott. He actually really surprised me. This is actually a really, really smart guy. This is a guy who put in a ton of time and hours into, he's mostly in high sec, but he found all these like really nuanced ways to steal a lot of the station cores that was recently implemented months and months back, where you had to put in cores into stations and things like that, into high sec or citadels. And this guy, him and a bunch of other people, managed to make about 200 billion ISK within the course of a couple weeks or something like that. So he made a bunch of alt accounts, infiltrated a bunch of corporations, found ways to get information on when certain citadels were going to go low power or get unanchored, like all this stuff. He's just a really, really smart guy, and he's actually found a lot of ways to kind of manipulate some high-sec mechanics and even some of the end-game mechanics to highly profit. And even some ways, I think the biggest value point he can bring is thinking outside the box and trying to bring up any oversights that CCP might have made when it comes to applying new mechanics or new things into the game, because he's very, very good at thinking outside the box and how to manipulate things. So that was actually one of the most interesting interviews I had. I didn't put him higher up on my list because I think some of these other people can kind of bring more experience and stuff to the table, but I think he's definitely a high consideration, so I would definitely check out his interview. Like, just the amount of stuff that he was able to do and the dedication he had to creating all these accounts and making profit and stuff is honestly really, really interesting. For my second and last alternate is actually Micromaner. I actually loved the attitude of this guy. I don't really remember a lot of the issues he was really pushing and stuff, to be honest. I was just so enamored with just how likable of a guy he is. He's definitely a huge meme lord. The guy's been playing video games since the late 90s. His whole name was Micromaner, was back in the late 80s and stuff, I guess, with computers. I don't really remember, but the guy just had such an awesome attitude, and his main focus was just on getting memories in EVE Online. It's not about incessantly about balancing stuff or why certain things should happen. I think he told a story about he was hacking a site in a Thanatos or something like that, and it was just something completely ridiculous and outside the box thinking. But I think his big thing that he could bring is that he has a great sense of humor, he has a great attitude, he focuses on developing awesome memories, and hey, how can we navigate this in a way where people can kind of play this unintentionally and have a little bit of fun. I think he's definitely the type of person that focuses more on fun rather than form and function and mechanics and all that kind of stuff. So I think he would be an awesome guy to go with as well. And kind of an honorable mention, not so much an honorable mention, but Uriel, I don't remember his last name. I'm going to put it up on the screen if I can remember. This guy is a huge lore nut. Honestly, CCP should hire this guy. Not if he makes it on the CSM, awesome, but if he doesn't make it on the CSM, they really need to hire him as a lore expert, or just on the lore development team or something like that. The guy knows so much about the EVE Online, Jovian Empire, and even some things that they can do here in the near future. So I think if he gets all the CSM, great. He can kind of figure out how a lot of things are interconnected hand in hand, lore-wise, and how we can intermingle that with some mechanics and new events coming out. But if not, this dude is so smart. He's actually made there was like kind of like, I watched his interview, and then there was like an after video like interview where they were just talking about lore and stuff on Ashterothi's YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it, guys. I highly suggest you guys right now. I think it is June the 4th or 5th. I don't know which day I'm going to be uploading this video, but the voting starts on the 8th, and I think the voting stops on the 15th. So I really wanted to get this video out to you guys so you guys know which candidates that I like and that I value. And if I didn't choose a particular candidate, it's not because like I don't like them or anything like that. You know, they just don't represent a part of gameplay that I find a ton of value in, at least immediately, or that can't be fulfilled by someone else that's already on the ballot that I put together here. So it's not like I don't like those other people. Usually it's because I either don't know enough about them, or based on the interview with Ashterothi and some of the forum posts that they put, it's just stuff I'm just not that's just not high on my list of priorities or anything like that, or someone that I think that could represent the player base a bit better. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I highly suggest you guys at least take the time over the next like week and a half or so to check out the candidates, read their forum posts, check out Ashteroth's videos. I mean, I've subscribed on his channel already. I like all of his videos that I've watched so far. I haven't commented yet, but I might go back and comment on all of his videos and kind of give my little takeaways on each video if I can, off the top of my head. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you guys take care and you fly safe.